fiction.
Yes.
Is there a particular reason you're so fond of writing in this genre?
I just sort of started writing for my kids. Well, my daughter, probably first of all. I had this story in my head, The Big Dig. That was sort of the first story I ever created, because most people said, if you're going to write what you know. So it was sort of based loosely on when I would have been her age. I just sort of, that's my comfort zone, I think. Yeah, I like that age. There's just so much angst and drama and stuff going on. You can always find material in that. Yeah.
I love that. What do you feel is the most important thing a young writer should know if they want to have a career someday?
I guess if you want to have a career in the arts, it's really important to know, like, what does that mean to you?
I think the most important thing they should know is that it's hard, that it's tough, that you've got to do the work.
If you want to make money as an artist, you should probably go to law school.
You got to sit and write. You've got to do it. And it's craft like anything else.
It doesn't have to be perfect the first time around.
And you get better at it the more you do it.
When you go back and look at your work, read it out loud. And then you find all the flaws and what doesn't feel right.
If your career as an artist is really about the art that you're making and how that makes you feel and how that, connects to other people, then that's a different story.
You have to write a story you care about, and you have to develop characters you care about. So don't look for somebody else's voice. Spend some time finding your own.
Every time you go over it and re-edit it and re-listen to it, it gets better every time.
Understand, what does career mean to you? And then, make your decisions based on that.
Kids come to school, and kids are faced with all the challenges that adults are as well. And they don't always have a voice for that.
Kids understand everything.
They're hearing the news and they're seeing what's going on, and they have things in their lives that are every bit as problematic as anything they'll read in a book.
And I think that adults have to catch up to that reality.
So if they can find a character in fiction that is going through something even slightly similar, then it gives them something to grab onto. I taught school for 29 years, and I read to my class every single day. A lot of what I read to them was pretty serious stuff.
I actually really appreciated Judy Blume novels when I was growing up, because those novels did actually talk about things like getting your period or, your parents getting divorced.
If you've got a good rapport with a class and you've got an honest, open dialogue, you should be able to handle those topics.
Yeah, just how refreshing that is to not have everything sugar-coated, because everybody has to go through life, and life isn't sugar-coated.
Of course. I know I did this book for my book talk at school. I'm in high school, and while I was reading through what I had, questions that I had to answer and whatever, you can tell even just looking out at my class that every single one of them could relate in some small way. A bunch of people came up to me, they're like, Molly, where did you get that book?
I read your book and I remember reading it and I was like, wow, I've never read anything like this. Sometimes you just need things put in real life almost, and I think your book does that really well. Can you tell us about a time when you were starstruck?
When I was a child, my mother worked on the show Fraggle Rock, and I remember seeing Jim Henson for the first time after, hearing about him and being so influenced by him, as a child with Sesame Street and the Muppets.
I've met Sherry Fitch, which was a highlight. I've met her several times, and she blurbed my first book, which meant a lot to me.
My daughter and I did go to Taylor Swift.
Exciting.
Yeah, a couple summers ago at Gillette Stadium, and I think it was probably the greatest concert I'd ever seen. And I just love her so much. And there's always some little bit about her that's in one of my books, actually, because I'm like, what would Taylor do in this situation? So I'm a big fan.
What inspired you to use crows as a literary device?
So the town where I live, every fall and all through the winter, the crows all gather in our big park. It's just visually so beautiful when all the trees are black and all the crows are roosting in the trees as the sun's setting. It looks like trees have black leaves, and the sound is incredible. So it started with seeing that and thinking, how can I work that into a movie? And then once the movie was being adapted into a book, I thought about, the role that crows play in our world. They're urban dwellers. They're right here with us, so they're just as much a part of our cityscape as all the people. What do they think of us, and how, and they clearly have a world. They're talking with each other, and we don't really understand them. So it was kind of fun to think about if they had a society, how would it work? As a literary device, it was a way of reflecting back our society.
I want to know what's something positive that came out of this pandemic for you.
The pandemic made me stop and reflect on where am I at, what am I doing, where am I going?
My daughter was in Alberta and had been in Alberta for 12, 13 years. And the pandemic kind of made her, I think, look at what really mattered and the support and family support she needed in her life. They moved back in August.
My kids were home with me.
Mm-hmm.
We watched 80,000 movies on Netflix and baked and all gained 6 pounds.
I did 40 days of complete sobriety, so no intoxicants. I meditated every day and I exercised every day, and I really reflected.
We have 3 grandchildren across the road as well that have always been here, but our 2 that were in Alberta now come on the bus every day after school.
I probably didn't do very much writing, but the nice thing was I didn't feel guilty about it.
Definitely great insights about, what matters to me and what I want to do with my life, and just the incredible amount of gratitude that I feel for the peace that we enjoy in Canada.
Appreciate it being able to go for a walk or to have 6 of your friends 6 feet apart on the back deck,
You can get so caught up in the anxiety of all the things that are bad, but I think really taking really seriously what is going to bring you joy and, what is going to make you feel healthy, and work on that.
When you were writing your characters, was there anyone that was more difficult or fun to create?
I started the sewing basket quite a long time ago. It wasn't my first novel published, but I did start it long before my first published novel. Initially, I was going to have the father die. Then it just occurred to me that would be the easy way out for the father. And I found it hard to write the dad leaving because Ruth had such a good relationship with him. They were so connected. For him to just leave seemed out of character, but yet people fail. I didn't have her coming to terms with her dad. I didn't have him coming to the cottage. I didn't have her dig up the sewing basket. I didn't have any of that in the original manuscript. And my editor pushed me to get some kind of reconciliation between Ruth and her dad. And that was, I think, very important because he messed up. But he still loved her. So that was a hard one.
What was your inspiration behind Great Aunt Josie in The Big Dig?
She is 100% based on my own grandmother, Josie. And everything in the Big Dig that Josie said and did, the root beer, the cake, the smoking, that's all real. None of that's made up. That all legit happened.
I'm so glad to hear that. She was
yeah,
like my favorite character ever.
Yeah. It's a pressure cooker that absolutely happened. That absolutely happened. The root beer exploding in the attic. She made bread. That was like the only thing she could bake that was really good. And root beer and sponge toffee. She used to make homemade sponge toffee too. So yeah. And she was deaf, and she got hit in the head with a baseball bat when she was like a teenager. And yeah, everything about her is true.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one piece of advice that you can't live your life without?
Just one? I'm going to sneak two in because that's just what I am. Number one is journal every day. For the last 12 years anyway, I journal every single day. And for me, it's a real clarity that I can look back and see where I was and where I'm going and see a pattern.
You know, a lot of people say, be yourself. But that's actually a really hard thing to do. It's basically the only thing that, you know, you're given in this life to do. And I'm still working on it. I'm getting better at it.
The other thing is to get outside every day. I go for a walk every day, or I try to, and I need to be alone. If you've read 10,000 Truths, and if you haven't, you need to. But Amelia's rule was spend an hour at the lake alone with every day. And I think it's really important. The advice for me is spend some time with yourself, because you've got to hear your own voice. We spend so much time sometimes running away from what we're going to tell ourselves, but I believe our own voice is the strongest one we have.